You're listening to the number one source for political, pop culture, and sports talk on the radio. The Julio Rivera Show. Hashtag Conservarican. With no fuck left to give.
We are controlling transmission.
Ladies and gentlemen,
the Julio Rivera Show is on.
It's on and popping on this Thursday, November 3rd, 2016. The Thursday before the Tuesday before the world ends, or we start to come back from 7+ years of extreme leftist policy, which has brought America and shaking it down to the core. What a show we have today. Joining me later on, and you guys know and love this guy because he's been on back from the We Are America radio days. We got Rob Spade joining us at about 10:30, and he'll be joined actually by my buddy Christian Semper. We're going to do a little triple threat action. We've got Kathleen Saucier, who you guys know all about if you've been following my blog for Newsmax. Her son Christian Saucier is actually in jail right now for the next year for 6 photographs taken inside a submarine where he was a submarine sailor. He actually served for a while on the same Navy base I did in Navy sub base New London in Groton, Connecticut. 6 pictures that he took as a keepsake. He gets a year in prison. Hillary Clinton mishandling 30,000 plus emails. Not only that, but bleaching her server after receiving a subpoena from the FBI, and she's still on the ticket this Tuesday's election. Don't forget to vote. Don't vote for her, but certainly don't forget to vote. And my first guest, my buddy, the rock-solid conservative. I spoke with him earlier today. We were on a great panel on America's Talks Live on Newsmax. Host of the Steve Malzberg Show, 7 p.m. on Newsmax TV. Steve Malzberg is here. I'm so excited, Steve. I can't even think.
Well, that's okay. Hey, listen, I now have arrived, not only because I'm doing your show again, of course, but I played this bite on my show tonight on the Steve Malzberg Show at 7 p.m. on Newsmax TV. I was cutting up Louis Farrakhan. Drudge had a link to Louis Farrakhan criticizing Hillary. Farrakhan gave one of his 4-hour speeches. So he was comparing Hillary to Hitler, blah, blah. So imagine this. I'm sitting at home. I'm cutting up the sound, and I'm getting it ready for today's show. This is last night, and all of a sudden he starts talking about Richard Pearl, and he says, "On the Steve Malzberg Show on Newsmax TV, I almost fell off my chair. Louis Farrakhan." So I have arrived, my friend.
Exactly, that's big time, man. That's because Farrakhan, if you're gonna be hated by the biggest hater you can possibly find. I'm serious. That's actually big. That's a big deal because you know he doesn't like you. I can tell.
Oh well, he does. Yeah.
They tend to not like. Let's be honest. Let's call it for what they don't. It's not just because you're a political conservative. He doesn't like you because you're Jewish, Steve. Let's be honest.
Yeah, well, that was the whole spiel about how neocons, a lot of them were Jewish and all that stuff. But I almost fell off my chair.
Man, I would have kept that. You know what? You should make that your ringtone on your phone. And Steve
yeah, that's a good one. You know what? I'll have to ask my son. To do it because I don't know how. But that's a good point.
Oh my God! Well, we were talking today, and we were alluding to a couple of the things that are going on right now. And this is something kind of a theme of the last couple of times that we've talked either on one of your shows or mine. The reporting, the media is not telling us the truth. They're not telling. We know the truth because conservatives go out and they seek the news. They look past what's being reported on mainstream outlets, and we do our research. So we know what's going on. We know that we've been lied to, right? This has not resonated. That message, the true message, has not resonated because the mainstream media is covering basically for Hillary. We're dangerously close to putting very easily the most lawless presidential candidate we've ever had. Somebody that would sacrifice the safety of the United States and internationally the stability of the world in order to enrich ourselves. We know that she's not like Trump. She's never built a damn thing in her life. She's basically just a public servant this entire time. She has a net worth of upwards of $300 million. So you only do that if there's some sort of shady dealings going on. All this information is coming out through WikiLeaks. What would you handicap it right now with the experience and everything that that you've seen, and you've been through this entire cycle and this process before? What do you think the chances are of her actually getting in and winning Tuesday?
Man, that's such a tough question. And I speak to so many people, and I ask the same question of those people. And it really all comes down to turnout. Now, there's some encouraging news from states like North Carolina, for instance, where even though Hillary has the lead in the early voting, the black vote is down significantly from what it was in 2012. And that's not unique to North Carolina. That's also the case in other early voting states. So if the black vote is down 5, 6, 7% from 2012, that's not going to bode well for Hillary at all. I mean, it is an easier electoral college map for Hillary. It definitely is. Trump has to win so many must-win states and has a narrower path. But I mean, look at the polls. I mean, if you could believe them, they're closing. Trump's got the lead in some of them, in state by state or nationally. I just think it's going to come down to Election Day, and I can't imagine, notwithstanding Barack Obama's race baiting, flagrant race baiting, in North Carolina and all over the country, telling blacks that the Republicans are going to do this to them and do that to them, and brought up the KKK today. I still think that turnout, people, I can't wait to go pull the lever for Trump. I can't imagine that anybody except the sycophants are feeling that way about Hillary.
Yeah, but you know what? You know what's funny too? I read somewhere where they were saying that these polls this year match up kind of similarly to the ways that the polls looked in 1980 going into that general election. And so, because Carter was still considered a favorite, and he wound up getting smashed by Reagan. So you don't necessarily, and we also know, and we've talked about this before, the polls are skewed because they're getting more, they're asking more Democrats for their opinion than they are Republicans. So you're naturally...
Yeah, even the Washington Post poll that was 14 and within a week became even, and now Trump is either up 1 or down 1, the ABC News Washington Post poll, even as he's gained and has taken the lead and gotten even, they're still only talking to 27% Republicans. So that's amazing to me.
Yeah, one of the things, and especially with Donald Trump in this primary, remember, he set the record for the most votes ever in the history of a primary, right? And they said that he did that in a lot of, open primary states. So the word has always been that Donald Trump can reach out and he can grab independents and switch them over to our side. That's one of the reasons why you had a lot of these, never Trump Republicans saying that they didn't like him. But the fact of the matter is, as well as he performed in the primary, that should be more indicative of what you think he'll do in a general, because those open primaries are basically, the general election rather is basically just one big open primary. So if you have people excited and you're setting a record for the most primary votes ever, I would think that gives him a better chance regardless of what the media is trying to force down our throats.
Yeah, no, and the media, you bring up a whole other topic there I'd love to talk about. But no, yeah, look, I'm cautiously optimistic. Let's put it that way. And by the way, there's still a long time between now and Tuesday, and I got to tell you, I think Rush Limbaugh said it today, and I agree with him, that if they have something else to drop on Trump, another woman, whatever, they'll do it Friday. Tomorrow, because they want the whole weekend for the sycophants in the media to harp on it and harp on it and harp on it.
Exactly. This isn't a typical Friday in the news cycle where generally the Obama administration would always drop their dirt on Fridays because they figured people would pay less attention because it's the weekend. This weekend, everybody is focused on what's going to come out, whether there's going to be one final, at this point, a November surprise, because we're only days away. So, I mean, I'm hoping whether it's Project Veritas, whether it's WikiLeaks, dropping something on Hillary Clinton, that we do see it. I think if the Democrats had something that was rock solid, they would have already turned it, they would have marketed it already. You'd already see commercials with it, because they're very good at doing that. That's the one thing, and I wanted to bring this point up today, but I never really got a chance to do it. The Democrats, no matter how lawless they are, no matter how dirty they look, they do a much better job than the Republican Party at organizing and winning elections. It's sad, but it's true. You're going to see busloads of Democrats, whether they grab up a bunch of poor people from like an inner city neighborhood and give them all $20, one way or the other, you're going to see tons of people coming in bust into voting precincts voting Democrat, where the Republicans don't really necessarily do that. And I'm not saying that it's right to do that because, I think everything should be done with integrity. We shouldn't have any kind of voter fraud or anything like that. But they're trying to win. We got Republicans on our side that don't sound like they even want to win.
Yeah, well, look, the Democrats have always been well organized. There's nothing more organized than the Clinton machine. Mm-hmm. There's nothing more dirty than the Clinton machine. They know all the tricks. They've been through this forever. Trump has never been through it, although he has people in this campaign who have. Trump is outfunded, he's outspent, and he's outmanned on the ground. Mm-hmm. But nonetheless, again, I just think there is a revolution in this country, mm-hmm. and it's called Donald Trump, and especially, my God, with the revelations that are coming out, if we had a fair media, she'd be done, because you have John Podesta's lawyer, who he bragged kept me out of jail during the Monica Lewinsky affair, mm-hmm. is now a top man in the Justice Department, and according to emails and reports, this top man in the Justice Department is tipped off Podesta and the campaign, plus helped thwart the FBI investigation into the Clinton Foundation. And Loretta Lynch on the tarmac in the plane with Obama, with Clinton. You can't. You talk about a banana republic. Oh my God. Yeah,
this is crazy. I never thought in a million years, America being as free as it's supposed to be, and we have freedom of the press, and all those things that we would ever have. These giant corporate, like CNN is a big, ginormous media outlet. They're a big media conglomerate. You never thought that something like that, them doing business with Donna Brazil rather, and stuff like I never really thought that we were that bad until now, and it's sad that it takes the illegal act of hacking computers for somebody to actually blow the whistle, because nobody would honestly report what they thought, or even, you get an investigative reporter, but you figure with all the, everything that the scandal that surrounded the Clintons, how many people were supposed to testify against the Clintons, or were involved or had information on the Clintons that died under mysterious circumstances? So a lot of it is like intimidation. It truly has become, what some people like to call the Democrat crime family. It's really...
Well, you had... Yeah, no, go ahead. You had the Project Veritas tape that showed these top Democratic officials and operatives bragging about starting violence. Mm-hmm. 2 of them got fired. The media couldn't care less. Mm-hmm. You got Donna Brazil, who's still the head of the DNC.
Yeah, that's crazy.
How any Bernie supporter, and you know what? Bernie has proven to me that he is, how can I put this? He was a phony from the beginning. Mm-hmm. Because if he were true to himself and to his cause and to his voters and to the people who worked for him and gave blood, sweat, and tears, how can he stand by knowing what Donna Brazil, how can he support the party that Donna Brazil still heads, that Hillary was in on and Donna Brazil was in on, screwing him, giving questions to Hillary at debates? And so he's a phony. And CNN fired Donna Brazil. But here's the thing. The Daily Caller did a story and spoke to 2 women. The 2 women who don't know each other, whose questions got given in advance to Hillary at debates. Mm-hmm. And both of these women said, I never met Donna Brazil. They never met Donna Brazil. What do both women have in common? They both spoke to the same producer at CNN, who they named, and talked about the questions they were going to ask. So you figure it out. Seems to me, from that story anyway, if I'm a detective, it seems to me the producer got the questions from the women, and the producer told Donna Brazile, and Donna Brazile told the campaign. Yet this producer, as far as we know, is still working at CNN. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, you don't have to have a trench coat and a lazy eye like Columbo. You don't need to have a lollipop like Telly Savalas to figure these things out. It's very simple. It's right out there in the ether, and that tells you that, I mean, you get these big media sources, they want to manipulate what's going on. They have a vested interest in who wins the national election. They want Hillary Clinton, and when they joke around and they call it the Clinton News Network, they really mean it. I mean, every once in a while, Jake Tapper can drive me up the wall, but every once in a while he does get it right. But they're mostly wrong. They're really mostly wrong. All of them. Don Lemon is a joke. I watch Don Lemon and I want to pull my hair out, you know?
Don Lemon is a lost cause. Don Lemon, the man who said during the night before they shot the 5 Dallas cops, coincidentally, Don Lemon who said, I'm a successful black man. Why should I have to be polite to police? I'm only polite to them because I want to live.
Really? Wow.
I mean, that's disgusting. And today I happen to be watching Jake Tapper. And Jake Tapper's show started. With all that's going on with the Clintons and the FBI, Jake Tapper's show started. He mocked Melania Trump for the speech he gave. He made a face, in fact. He then played a commercial. Here's Hillary's latest commercial. He played that, which knocked Trump. And then he played sound bites from Obama today, knocking Trump. That's how his show started. The first 7 minutes of his show was all attack Trump. Then they had David Bossie on of Citizens United, who's working with the Trump campaign, played another Trump commercial, the one done where he talks about women, including the bus sex tape, played that and said, how could you defend this man? 12 women have come forward, blah, blah, blah. It was disgusting.
Oh, my. Well, you know what, Jake Tapper, I take back what I said. Screw Jake Tapper. All right? If you guys want to hear the truth and you want to get the lowdown dirt on what's actually going on without spin, tune in to the Steve Malzberg Show every 7 p.m., 10 p.m. Eastern Time on Newsmax.com. That's Files 115 and www.newsmaxtv.com. Steve, you're a wonderful guest. I love having you on. Thank you so much.
I love having you on. And don't forget the noon show, noon Eastern and 7 p.m. Eastern. You were on the noon show today, and we'll get you back real soon, my friend. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic, man. God bless you, Steve, and have a great weekend.
Thank you.
And that was Steve Malzberg, the great Steve Malzberg. And at the other side of the break, we're going to have Kathleen Saucier. Don't go anywhere.
You're listening to the #1 source for political, pop culture, and sports talk on the radio. The Julio Rivera Show. #Conservarican. With no fuck left to give.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, hit it!
We are controlling transmission.
Ladies and gentlemen,
The Julio Rivera Show is on.
And popping on this Thursday, November 3rd, 2016. Our last live show before the biggest election in history. And one of the central themes of this election is the lawlessness of Hillary Clinton and her various scandals over the years. She has operated seemingly above the law. The law applies to some, but not to all, in the world of all that's Clinton. And my next guest, unfortunately, has to suffer through something that, and watching Hillary Clinton, I'm sure she is very upset, and she can tell you all about it. Kathleen Saucier, how are you this evening?
Yes, hi, Julio. Thank you so much for having me on. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you perfectly, coming in loud and clear. And a couple of weeks ago, I did a piece in my Newsmax blog regarding, and it was actually set off by the vice presidential debate. And I just want to go back to a second. There was an exchange between Mike Pence and Senator Kaine from Virginia. And Mike Pence basically said it and very clearly, very definitively, and very truly said that if either one of their children, which are in the military, had mishandled classified information the way Hillary Clinton did, that they would have been in jail. And Tim Kaine denied that. And you have Hillary Clinton still on a national ticket in the biggest election in the world, probably in the history of the world. And your son, unfortunately, for taking 6 innocent photos inside a submarine as a keepsake for his future children, one of them, which he currently has now, which is a beautiful 1-year-old daughter, is sitting in a federal prison for 1 year.
Yes. Yes, there's obviously a clear double standard, and I appreciate you for bringing that up. Yes, when my son was 22, in 2009, there was no cell phone ban on the submarines, and many of the young men were taking photos, unfortunately, very dangerous mistakes, but things that happen. And 2 of the men at the time were, and I think you reported on this when you wrote your article, 2 of the men were reduced to rank and fined $560. And unfortunately, my son's case went outside the military and became a part of a Department of Justice and an FBI investigation, which ended in him this year accepting responsibility and pleading guilty to having 6 photos on his phone, which is classified as mishandling classified information. And the similarities between him and Hillary Clinton is they both had classified information on an insecure device, and he's accepted that responsibility. The differences start with Hillary Clinton, where her levels of classification, my son's was at the lowest level for those 6 photos. Hers was all the way up to a very high level. In addition, hers were emails, which we know that emails are transmitted. So, obviously hers went outside of her control. Not that it's still against the law to have classified documents or information on an insecure device. But she over and over, not just 6 times, but thousands and thousands of times from what we're hearing, transmitted data that actually put people's lives at risk. I mean, we look at the men from Benghazi and, we recognize, we don't even know what the level of leaks have been. And I think someone just said that, I saw something on the news about there's possible that 5 other countries have accessed that information.
Exactly. With 99% certainty, Brett Bayer's sources say that they believe that up to 5 countries have hacked into. And then not only that, you have a lot of that information on an external device, because when they seized Anthony Weiner's laptop as part of the investigation into his alleged child pornography or whatever you want to call it, communicating inappropriately with a minor, they found communications that I guess, whether they're encrypted, that they passed through that server. So I don't
Correct.
know. Yeah, and people were saying that perhaps, the Aberdeen Wieners, whatever you want to call their family, had kept information as an insurance policy against Hillary Clinton, because who knows what was it. When you're dealing with criminals, this is something that you see in the mafia.
Right.
If these guys will collect a smoking gun against maybe somebody that they're doing business with, just in case, an insurance policy for down the road in the future. And that speaks to intent, because there's criminal intent when you sell American diplomacy in order to enrich yourself the way that they were doing through the Clinton Foundation. I mean, that's just terrible. There was no benefit, there was no gain for what Christian did. There was just anything. It was just for sentimental value purely.
Right, and I think those things we've clearly stated, and I think the biggest thing that we have to recognize as American patriots, as voters, as we go forward, our vote is very important, and we need to make a decision about who we're voting for. Do we trust someone that's violated our safety and security over and over again in the White House, or would we trust someone that sometimes doesn't always say the right thing? And I think we have to recognize and acknowledge that we have, I'm voting for Donald Trump. So that's what I'm telling you. But everyone has the right to make their choice, and in that choice, you need to step back and think about what happened to my son and our family could happen to anyone, any American patriot. We started a Facebook page, American Patriots Against Double Standards, and I really would hope that people would go on and like the page. I'm about ready to go on to the Sean Hannity show now and talk about the double standards. So I'm hoping that people will watch that tonight, and the Hannity producers and their program has put together an incredible video, and very moving, very touching, about my son and his day that we took him to prison to say goodbye to his wife and daughter. I believe you watched it already, Julio.
Yes, and it was very touching. It actually did bring a tear to my eyes as a former sailor on a submarine installation. It brought back, a lot of that, military families have it rough, and this does not make it any easier. And I know you're pressed for time, and you're going to be on Sean's show.
Yes.
God bless.
God bless
Good
you
luck.
All. Please ask for prayers for people to pray for my family, my beautiful daughter-in-law, and my granddaughter and my son for safety and courage as we go forward.
Fantastic, and we certainly will do that. God bless you. You're a great patriot, and continue to get that message out about the double standard. Thank you so much for appearing.
You.
All righty, and
Take care.
was Kathleen Saucier, and I'm going to bring in Christian Semper here. I want to get your take on this. Christian Semper, and we've done a couple of 15-minute speakers together. He's a good buddy of mine. He's a big fan of conservative politics and an observer. What do you think, or how would you, what would you say regarding like a voter right now? Right, we live in a country right now where somebody who's serving our country, and the military doesn't make a lot of money.
No.
He's not out there running around making hundreds of millions of dollars giving speeches or doing any of that kind of stuff. This is a guy that was toiling, and I believe he's like a machinist, and doing a tough job in the military for little pay, risking his life. And the submarines are very dangerous. We've had a lot of tragedies on submarines.
Oh, of course.
Exactly. So he's taking that risk. 11 years of otherwise perfectly honorable service. Gets discharged. He wanted to retire as a sailor. So not only that completely ruined his outlook for the future for right now temporarily, because now he's going to come back. He's going to be, I guess he would be technically considered a felon or something, right? That's like a felony.
Yeah, exactly.
So technically, unfortunately, in the workforce beyond his sentence, that's what he's going to be perceived as, unfortunately. What do you say to the voters, the ignorant voters, and there's millions of them, that are still going to vote for Hillary on Tuesday?
How could you possibly do that, for one? For one, I don't understand how you can possibly see the standards to be so far broad different from anybody. Hillary Clinton doing everything that she's done for years, not just one aspect, but just for years, going off, getting away with everything, absolutely everything and anything, to where she's actually able to come to the point to we're voting for her. We have the chance to actually vote for her after everything that she's done, where you have an innocent sailor who, yes, did take some pictures where, okay, it was rules, but at the same time...
Yeah, but she just said rules. There was no cell phone ban.
There was no cell phone ban.
Yeah, there wasn't specifically a cell phone ban.
Yeah, so, I mean, we're just going to twist the rules around? That's the way the game works. You twist everything around to, you can get off, and the bigger people get off all the time.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, is that when you talk about it, there were two sailors. There's very common sense when it's handled, I guess, within the military. There were two sailors that were under similar circumstances. They got a bust down. They lost one rank, right? Yes. So they went maybe from E4 to E3 or whatever the circumstances were. And they had to pay a fine of like a half month's pay, which is like $650. That tells you how little they're making, right?
Right.
All right, so $650 is a half month's pay for some of these guys. So they were probably lower ranked. Not to say that their job's any lower or the level of danger that they have to go through is any lower.
And think of this. And think of this. What did they say for Army Reserve members and for veterans? We want to help you on college support. We want to help you go to college. We want to help you do all these things because they're not making the money that they, fully deserve probably to make with the service that they do bring to our country. They do want them to do other things in life, yes, but however, for the service that they give, I do feel that they do are honorable pay, but they work at their hearts out for the little bit pay that they make, and we are offering them help through that. And that just shows you how little that the military and the armed services and sailors are busting their butts to get paid. Just a little bit that they do. But Hillary Clinton could sit in her office. Sit in her basement
In the bathroom in her basement.
In the bathroom in her basement.
And pass along and prostitute the integrity of national security information. I'm going to go ahead and take a break. On the other side of the break, we're going to have Rob Spade joining us in just a moment on the other side. Actually, you know what? Why don't we just go right into this? We're not going to take a break. No. It's 5 days to Election Day.
We don't stop.
We don't got time for a break. Rob Spade joins us, and for my audience here, that goes back to the We Are America radio days. You remember Rob. He's done several shows with me. We actually went through the omnibus in detail last year when we were kind of trying to expose Paul Ryan for being the phony that he is. But thank you so much for joining me this evening. How are you feeling today, Rob?
Nice. Julio Rivera, my brother from another mother's brother.
Exactly. There you go. That makes us 18th cousins or something. I don't know. God knows. But listen, I just had on Steve Malzberg, and we were discussing, basically what's going to happen here on Tuesday. What do you think right now, based on polling, based on what you're feeling on the ground, based on the information that seems to be hitting us, a new allegation every second? What do you think is going to happen on Tuesday, Rob?
Well, to be honest, we really don't know because we really can't trust all the disinformation. The only thing we know is that all these corrections that are happening basically lead more towards the truth than previously. You see all the gaps closing. Well, that's all these polling agencies telling you, okay, now we got to tell you the truth, because if we don't, and at the end of the election it turns out we're 10 points off, you're never going to look at us again. So now we got to come back to reality and give you the truth. Now, before they were trying to change your perception and get you to not vote or to vote, depending on how you look at it, and now they're telling you the truth.
Yeah, they were trying to discourage it. They were trying to discourage Republicans. They weren't excited necessarily because, let's face it, there were a lot of Republicans that voted against Trump. He only really had about 42% of the popular vote during the primary. So there was about 58% of people who voted against him. So it's easy. I
think you're being very generous.
You think so? What do you mean?
Sorry.
Why?
I think he probably only has 38%, to be honest, because I mean, if you consider the way, like, the reason that we were doing badly, if you consider when he was running initially, when all the 5 or 6 Republicans that were all very similar were out there, he really didn't have a whole lot. He had literally like between 30 and 35% at that time, perhaps, and he still won. And that's really not a lot.
But you figured, Dave, if there were less people running, it would have been a 2 or 3 horse race. It probably would have been Rubio, Cruz, and him, but he still had the lion's share of independents. He still would have won all those open primaries, I still think. Yeah,
but the lion's share is not a whole lot. It almost reminds me of, like, Europe. It almost reminds me of, like, Europe, where you have so many people running that really the majority, the president that ends up winning is like really only the president by a majority of like 20%, because there's so many people there's so many different candidates,
so many parties. There's a lot when you have a multi-party system is a lot different than what we have here. But this has kind of become sort of the same way because we have so many different wings within the party. I mean, especially with the Republicans. Listen, the Democrats have no problem walking in lockstep when it comes down to trying to get things done. And Steve spoke about that earlier regarding him losing respect for Bernie Sanders. After everything that they did to Bernie Sanders, he still came out and endorsed Hillary Clinton. You see Republicans that don't really, Republicans, if they don't agree with you 100%, then you see a splinter in the party. And the Republican Party is as splintered as it's ever been. That's why we need... I don't know. Maybe Trump will be the great pragmatist. I mean, I don't know. Do you see that in him?
I like to look at the Republican Party as being diverse of opinion. Okay, we're not like some lockstep communists that just do, the greater good, the ends justify the means. But I think Trump can bring people together. But I think you can only come together to a certain point. I think we've reached the point of no return where we finally, as Republicans, have contrasting values to each other. I think the Bush side is all about money and all about their own people that they want to keep happy. And then the rest of the conservatives or Republicans, because everybody calls themselves a conservative now, but that's not necessarily true. I think that you have the Bushes, which are basically similar to the Democrats, except they're more just about money and cheap labor. and then the rest of America, which are reflected by the conservatives, like more like you and me, and then libertarians, although not a Johnson sort of libertarian, because I question whether Johnson is even a libertarian. I think he's
a big pothead. I think that's really what he is. And they talked about it the other day, and Independent Journal Review. I believe it was Benny Johnson. Benny Johnson's hilarious. Say what you tell. Some people like Benny Johnson. Some people don't like Benny Johnson. But they actually asked him to roll a joint. And they gave him oregano and rolling papers for him to go ahead and roll a joint. And then he tried to say that he's been more of a consumption pothead. So I guess, I don't know. You know, they have all these, and I found this out recently. They have all these products, and they put marijuana in everything in Colorado now. Yeah, they do. My friend Rivera just recently came back from Colorado. Uh-huh. And, well, I'm not going to get too in-depth about that, but, you know, she... You can. It doesn't matter. We're a libertarian-friendly show. And you know I'm a libertarian. Well, yeah. You know, if anybody knows, my buddy Rob knows that I'm a libertarian. Yeah, well, there's edibles in my future. Put it that way. Okay. So, so basically, they have multiple forms. They even have, like, she was telling me that they have, like, marijuana soda even over there, which is strange. You didn't hear that? Yeah. Is that like Dopa-Cola? Like they used to have Coca-Cola with cocaine in it. Now they have Dopa-Cola, I guess. Yeah. Yeah. I could just imagine like how it would feel. Can you imagine? It sounds like a liquid, so it probably hits you quick. But it's not like smoking. Okay, listen, we diverge. Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, no. But the thing is, with a libertarian, you have to at least believe in fiscal freedom, and you have to at least believe in a border. And Gary Johnson doesn't believe in a border. I understand where he's coming from. Like if we didn't have a welfare state, I would understand not really believing in a very protected border. But the fact of the matter is that we don't. We have a welfare state, so every illegal coming in here is basically costing us $60,000 to $70,000 each one of them. Exactly. You know? Yeah, and forget that. Imagine when you consider the children and the cost of education per year. You get those anchor babies or whatever you want to call them. You start, and now... That's racist. That's not racist. That's what they are. They got like a big... They should actually force them to cut their hair in like a bowl shape so it looks like an anchor. I would do that. Give them like a feathered, like a Gidget hairdo. Kind of shape it like shape it like an anchor. No, but the truth of the matter, you know this. These kids, especially now, you get these idiots like de Blasio. They want to make universal child care. So let's say you're an anchor baby, and the state has to pay for your child care, or not even the state. The taxpayer has to pay for your child care from like age 2, and then you go into kindergarten, and then forget it. By the time they come to 18, if we don't stop this progressive machine, we're going to be paying for them through community college as well. Yeah. The way it works is that they come over here. And their companies, their rhino organizations pay them very little, so they qualify for earned income and a bunch of other things. So the taxpayer subsidizes what the rhino employer, isn't willing to pay. Mm-hmm. So the person who ends up being screwed is us because it comes from our tax money. Yeah, and then you get people like Luis Gutierrez saying that, but they're gonna pay $10,000 worth of fine. $10,000 worth of a fine per person is not even a drop in the bucket compared to what they cost us over their lifetime. Yeah, and I said you were racist because the liberals trying to make the term anchor baby racist. They're like, you're racist, and it's not racist. It's the truth, you know. Mm-hmm. Anchor baby is not a racist term, but they want to demonize the language, and so that's what they call it. I think we should give a Popeye tattoo of an anchor to all of them on their right forearm. We should issue them when they come into when they walk through the border. They should get a tattoo and a can of spinach. That's what they should get. And they got you figure it out from there. You know. See, if you had been a racist, you would have said a can of beans. Oh, there you go. Or a bag of rice for the China folk. An avocado. That would have been for the Cubans. An avocado and some sugar cane. Yeah, there you go. But you know. Oh my God. But basically, what about that article? Like that, isn't that scandalous? Oh yeah, so go ahead, and this is something that you were very passionate about. Why don't you give the listeners a little bit of a background on something? This was part of the WikiLeaks drop, correct? This was an extensive document put together by John Podesta.
Yeah, basically, well, this article I found on the Daily Caller, and basically it was an article that came off of WikiLeaks that was basically it had to do with Soros and basically the Democrat funding and what they've been what they've been up to for the last maybe decade, which involves a bunch of nonprofits which are supposed to be politically non-biased, like they're supposed to be, basically, you lose your tax status if you become a political entity.
Exactly.
So basically these NPOs are supposed to be non-political, and it turns out that an NPO is just basically a Democrat shill. What they do is they get voters to vote Democrat. I mean, they bust them everywhere, and they pay them off in some cases, and basically this email detailed basically the whole plan between John Podesta, Soros, and Clinton. And John Podesta, is Clinton's, basically one of her higher ups. If not, I think he's the head campaign manager, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Well, I think he is by default. I think that the true campaign manager, and she wound up losing her job, but it was Debbie Wasserman Schultz, because she basically she ran a fantastic campaign. I mean, she stopped the populist movement. The Republicans couldn't stop the populist movement of Trump, but they certainly sure as hell stopped the Bernie movement.
Yeah,
they found a way to do it. Shit, fuck.
Yeah, see, that's why I don't understand how a Democrat votes for Clinton. A true Democrat, I mean, like the real true blue believing utopianists, I mean. Basically they did Bernie wrong. I mean, and they basically stated that they planned it all along. So I can understand a Democrat voting for Jill Stein. I can totally get that. I can even support that. But I don't see how a Democrat honestly votes for Clinton and still is a Democrat. I mean, I don't.
Wait a minute. Are you telling me you think Jill Stein is fine and you want to get on the Stein line? You want some wine on the Stein line, huh? You want to shield for Jill? No, I brought that point up. Actually, you know what's funny? This is something that me and Rob was kind of born out of a conversation that we had, and I've been doing it like kind of on social media, where I've been kind of poking some of the Democrats that I know. Like I did this to Rick Unger the other day, where I put it on his page. I put what did I put? I put one woman, one person of color, 0 controversies for the Stein ticket. Because I'm like, all right, come on. You guys are all principled too, right? You guys are principled liberals. But how can you vote for Hillary Clinton? So I brought that up today when I was on America Talks Live with Malzberg and Kristen Tate. Why don't they just go ahead? They have an opportunity to vote their conscience. It's not like Ted Cruz is anywhere on that ballot. Writing somebody in doesn't help. But I believe the Green Party is out in all 50 states, correct?
Yeah, pretty much.
Exactly. So it's like the Libertarians. They could, if they had the support, they could actually probably pull something off in the future. So why don't Democrats? They can't see Democrats that have any semblance of morality. Why would you not vote for Jill Stein?
Because they're probably told that it's a wasted vote. But I mean, like I said, we really don't know what's going on in the polls whatsoever. Like we think we know, but like it's the Bushes own some of the polls, the polling companies. And the Clintons own the Democrat side of the polling companies. So we really don't know exactly, what's what, Now, they don't even give us the margin of errors half the time anymore. Like, notice that they used to give us the margin of error. Like, they don't even report the margin of error. They don't report the setup. I mean, the last time I checked the last few setups, overrepresented Democrats by like 10 points. Just shady questions that are easy to like manipulate.
Yeah, it's like,
so
if I told you that Donald Trump raped children and killed babies, would that change your opinion of him? Like, yeah, I think that would. Like what? Like, I've gotten a lot of polling in New Jersey, I guess, because I'm in the 5th district, so they're doing a lot of polling for Garrett. So it's funny the way that some of the questions are asked that time. But listen, Rob, can you stick around for after the break? Because we have to force Christian to actually say something. Because he's just sitting here with his headphones on, and he needs to get in on this. So we're going to take a quick break. Just sit tight, and we're going to be back with more show in just a moment. Rob Spade and Christian Semper on the final show, recorded live before the greatest election in history.
You're listening to the #1 source for political, pop culture, and sports talk on the radio. The Julio Rivera Show. #Conservarican. With no fuck left to give.
Find the Lanterns Radio Network on Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, iTunes.
They can intercept this transmission at any time, so I'll be brief. The fight is here. The time is now. Go behind enemy lines.
YouTube, and other social media by searching keyword Lanterns Buzz or Lanterns Radio Network.
Hi, I'm Adam Marr, Apache helicopter pilot and COO of the Warrior Angels Foundation, a 501c3 with a superior treatment for our veterans suffering with TBI and PTS. We have found a solution that pinpoints and treats the underlying condition and are providing that solution for veterans across the nation, but we need your help. Go to waftbi.org to find out more. That's waftbi.org.
Politics got you down? Is your team in last place? Is your significant other sleeping with your neighbor? Well, cheer up. The Julio Rivera Show is on. Deal with your problems afterwards.
We are controlling transmission.
Ladies and gentlemen,
the Julio Rivera Show is on.
And popping. And Rob, I got something I wanted to play for you real quick.
Yep.
All right, check this out. What do you think that when Anthony Weiner comes out of hiding, the first sound he's going to hear is going to be?
Probably a jail cell door closing or opening.
No, do you hear this?
No, I don't hear anything.
Oh, you can't hear it on your side. Anyway, that's probably the first sound he's going to hear whenever it is that he comes out of hiding. But I want to talk about Anthony Weiner for a minute and the significance of what's going on here with this. Because, listen, this is funny. And I had Kathleen Saucier, who, you read my blog, so you know who she is. Her son, Christian, is in jail for a year for taking basically 6 innocent cell phone photographs aboard a submarine. And by their nuclear propulsion section of it or whatnot, where he worked, and he just wanted to take a picture for his kids. And I'm sure there isn't really much that could have been ascertained by the way that it worked, just by looking at the picture. But in any event, he is in jail. Hillary Clinton is walking free. Now, this is how sloppy that she mishandled it. The data coming through her personal server, which was unsecured and it was classified information, was so unsecured that it somehow made it onto pervert Anthony Weiner, who's got the greatest name ever for a political scandal. Ever, right? Anthony Weiner.
Anthony Waglin Weiner.
Yeah, exactly. He can't control his own wiener. But it made it onto his laptop, probably with God knows what other kind of pictures and downloads and photos and other kinds of nasty stuff that he's got on there. Why? I mean, why are we still even... Why is this even a conversation that we need to have anymore?
Well, we don't, and this is we do. But the only conversation we should be having is how many years to put them away for. That's really the only conversation we should be having. But if you think about it from a very sneaky perspective, in this day of technology, you can't just send somebody information on an email and then not expect to be caught by the NSA. So what she did, this is a theory, but what she did likely is she left her server way open. She let people know, hey, my server's way open on the DL. And then they went and they took what they needed to take. And she has plausible deniability because, I didn't know. I'm bad with technology. I didn't know that I needed to have a secure server. Even though I have 12 different devices that I own and, at least 6 or 7 that I walk with on a regular basis, I don't know anything about technology. That's what her answer, her statement is. But in reality, it allows her a lot of plausible deniability. But the bottom line is you don't need to have intent to have it be a criminal charge. And it's very clear with regard to the law that, with the Espionage Act and, the handling of classified documents, that regardless of whether you had intent or malice of forethought, it doesn't matter. You handle these documents incorrectly and you're done.
But that's not what Comey said when he gave the explanation as to why they didn't bring her up on charges. he made it seem like because he didn't feel that there was intent, that she wouldn't be charged. But then again, that speaks to the inequity in the system, because Christian didn't do anything but just take a couple of pictures with obviously no intent for it to be used towards espionage, and he's serving a year in prison. So it depends on, I think what wound up happening is the backlash.
Comey lied.
They Comey,
basically.
Well, I think that he probably initially lied, but the backlash that he got, then with the new information discovered by the heroes in the field office in New York, they came to him and they probably fought him on it. They probably there was probably some sort of, and they said that there was an internal struggle within the FBI regarding how they were going to handle Hillary Clinton, but those agents got their way and they reopened the case, and God bless them for doing it.
This is what I read, okay? What I read was that Loretta Lynch has jurisdiction over northern New York, okay? So basically, the FBI agents from that area wanted to press the case, and they said, listen, a lot of these agents actually read some of these literatures that are out there, like Clinton Cash and all these books, and then they would check out the information from all these books, and they checked out, and they would appeal to Loretta Lynch, and Loretta Lynch would say, you know what, stand down. Okay, no, there's nothing there, stand down. But southern New York, okay, was covered by a different, jurisdiction. So basically, the person responsible for that district decided to proceed with the case. Okay, and that's where Clinton got screwed. Okay, so that's basically what happened. Now, Weiner, we actually have to thank Weiner, going back to this little strange individual, the strange cross between Gollum and Red Skull. I don't know. We have to thank him, because if it wasn't for him, okay, Comey wouldn't have had any basis of reopening the case. Like the way it works is that some of the information found on Anthony Weiner's laptop, well, they had destinations that happened to be Clinton's server. And the people, Comey, basically hadn't seen any emails that were destined for Weiner's laptop. So obviously they had not received all the emails, even though Clinton said you've received them all.
So that was enough for them to open it. Yeah. But you know what? But there might not be anything really particularly juicy there, though. You never know.
But there is. We all know there is. I mean, we know there is. It's just a matter. We know those 33,000 emails are out there. We know somebody has them. We just don't know when we're going to see them. And I hope WikiLeaks ends up getting rid of them, Friday or Monday, because we don't have a lot of time.
Yeah, I think that's what Steve said, because I was saying, generally, if you want to kind of cover something up, you drop it on Friday because people are so busy that they don't. But this Friday is different than any other Friday, and he made the great point that if WikiLeaks has something, drop it then, so then people talk about it, because nobody's going to be talking about anything this weekend except for the election. Listen, Rob, I want to thank you so much for coming on. I got to give Christian the last word here. We have about a minute and a half. What do you got to say going into the big election?
I got to say, if you have any sense, if you have a intelligent, open mind, not even open mind, if you have ears, you have eyes, you have a mouth, if you have a soul, you must vote for Donald Trump. Because if you vote for Donald Trump, that tells you that you have integrity, and you believe in integrity, and you would believe in something that is good and godly, and that could make America great again and not be corrupt, where money's not flowing around where it's not supposed to be, not picking up everything from everyone else's back pocket on someone else's back. And you believe in America, you believe in the law, and you believe in making America the way it should be, written down by the Constitution of the United States of America.
You know what? I pray to God, Christian, that he doesn't, because I know that you have a lot more faith in him than I do. Although I do have more faith in him now. Obviously, I was a Ted Cruz supporter. I really hope that the supporters like you, that he doesn't disappoint you guys. Listen, this is the Julio Rivera Show, #Conservarican. We're going to be cutting it off here on this Thursday, on November 3rd. My last word is, vote for Donald Trump. I mean, I'm not going to give you the passionate talk off that Christian just gave you, but we have to stop the Clintons. And this is whether you want to call it a protest vote or not, this is the time to vote Republican. Let's get Republican up and down ticket, and let's start to change the country. God bless every single one of you guys. I'll be back with some content this week, and God bless you. www.conservarican.com.